Hi, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about the charter school that we belong to. It's called My Tech High. Some people requested to know a little bit more about that, so that's what we're going to be talking about today. So if you enjoy this type of content and other homeschool and lifestyle content, please remember to subscribe. Let's get into it. Okay, so first of all, I just want to mention that I know this video is a little bit more niche because it's talking about a charter school that's only available in Oregon, Utah, and Colorado. And so I know that it's not going to cater to everybody that watches my channel, but I wanted to encourage you, if you are interested in something similar or state funding or something, to look into the options in your state, because there probably is something that they will do for homeschoolers. And so even though this might not directly apply to you, there could be benefits to looking into one near you. So just my little thing for that. But I have all my notes here, so I don't forget anything, because trying to explain this stuff can get, I wouldn't say it's necessarily super complicated, but it can get a little confusing as you talk about it. So first of all, I wanted to discuss how the whole thing works, how My Tech High even works, and then I'll get into a few other little things about it. So the first thing is you basically have 6 periods. And you can have 7 if you are like in high school or junior high. I don't know exactly how that works because I don't have any kids that are that age. And it goes from kindergarten to 12th grade, as far as I know. We started when my 4th child was in preschool and we didn't put her in it. And so then, is that correct? No, she started in kindergarten. I'm trying to remember. So she started in kindergarten and then has done kindergarten and 1st grade. So we've done it, this is our 2nd year doing My Tech High. So kindergarten is just slightly different. The funds, basically most of the funds are cut in half because most of the kindergarten, I think in Utah, is half day. So I don't know if that's why they cut it in half. They just don't need as much stuff. So that's how it works for kindergarten. But they still have a similar like period set up. So your first class is your homeroom class. And before I get any further, so as not to confuse anyone, these aren't actual classes that you're going to. This is just kind of accountability for your subjects. You get to pick your curriculum. And so this is just some ways to keep track and for them to keep track of what you have chosen to do. And so at the beginning, when you apply, which I believe applications are open now until like the middle of the summer for the next school year, you will go in, you'll have a homeroom, they'll assign a teacher that keeps track, and I'll talk about the importance of that a little bit later. Your 2nd period is math, your 3rd period is language arts, your 4th period is social studies or science. You decide what you want to focus on. And then your 5th period is tech and entrepreneurship. And then 6th is an elective period that you get to choose. So again, I'm gonna try to explain this as clearly as I can because it's kind of complicated. So when you first apply, you're gonna go through and you're gonna say, for math, this is what we're gonna do. So these funds, in theory, would cover your homeschool curriculum. But if you are using Christian types of curriculum, it will not cover that, just because it's a state-based thing. And so our curriculum, since we use the good and the beautiful, doesn't get covered by the expenses. So we use, or by the budget or whatever. So we use that budget for something else. But if you're going through this, you can put down, they have approved lists. They have lots of resources. So you can look and see what curriculum is approved. And then if you want to use those funds for your actual curriculum, you can do that. And so you would write that down in math. This is what we're gonna do. So for math, I always just like, we're doing the good and the beautiful. I know it's not covered. We'll use the funds for like manipulatives or something like that. Okay, or other like math games or things like that. And then, the same thing for language arts. Then you decide if you wanna do social studies or if you wanna do science. And this year, I actually split my kids. So I did half of them in social studies and half of them in science, because then I can get funds like reimbursed for social studies stuff and reimbursed for science stuff. So that's kind of what I did for them. And then the technology and entrepreneurship course is a little bit different. So this can be a course taught by My Tech High. They have tons of options for different classes. So let me give you an example. So last year, my 3 older kids did this class, and they did, what did they do? So we did animation, rocketry, and like a We Do Lego building thing. And so the way this works is that class alone is $225 that they would give you, or not give you, but that you have allowance to use that money and get reimbursed for it. But if you do one of their classes, you don't get that allowance. And then if you need certain supplies, they'll send them to you. The only ones that take a little extra supplies and money, which come from separate funds that I will talk about, they will pull from that. So like the We Do Lego type stuff, because that's a big kit and it's fairly expensive, pulled a little bit from some separate funds for my daughter. But my other boys, they sent us all the rocketry stuff and the like animation tablet and access to the animation software as just signing up for the course. We didn't have to pull from any of our other funds for that. So they have that option. They also have the option for you to just do your own thing for exploring technology. Or you can do entrepreneurship. I don't know how many people do entrepreneurship. I feel like there's not as much, or maybe it's better when you're older. And so exploring technology, we did, because that includes a lot of different things. You can get, so we bought a Cricut, like the Cricut Joy, the smaller one. We got that reimbursed. All the like supplies for it, we got reimbursed. You can buy some different Lego sets, engineering sets, like 3D pens and the filament. I know some people get filament reimbursed and some of them, they won't reimburse it. It's a little bit tricky sometimes anyway. And so we've done some different things this year. And so then my kids can just, explore their technology. Or if you wanted to have them practice like filming and editing YouTube type stuff, or, some sort of social media type thing, whatever that is, or maybe even just they need to do a book report for language arts, but you want them to practice saying it into a camera, saying it clearly, having to edit it, and maybe send it to a family member. I don't know. So all that can count under this exploring technology, right? They're just learning how to navigate a very technology saturated world. So those are the options. We've done both. I actually think I like it better where we just have the freedom to pick what we want. The classes were still good and it was fun for my kids, but I really just like having the ability to choose what we want to do. The classes usually had like one assignment a week with some videos or whatever you go through, and then it would tell you what to do, and you just like report back, or you take a picture if you built something. So if if my son built a rocket, my husband would help him launch the rockets. So we didn't like burn the house down or anything, but they would take a picture of it or a video of it, and then we upload that. So that's kind of how that works. So hopefully that's sort of clear. If you have any questions, just put them down in the comments and I'll try to answer them. If there's enough questions, I might just make a whole separate video. So the next thing that's important to understand is that math, language arts, and social studies, and this elective class can all be considered custom build, which means these funds can be combined and used together. So you don't just have to use them. If you put custom build in there, when you sign up for all your classes and courses and stuff, then you can use those funds for just math. You could use them for just language. So all combined, that's $900. So you could just use it for one of those, like if you just need a whole bunch of reading books, you could just use all of those funds for reading books. That'd be a lot of books, or you could do some science kits or like a microscope or things like that with that. If you're not using them for curriculum, right? We're not using them for curriculum, which would cover, use a good chunk of that money. But since we're not, there's a lot of other options. Some museums are covered under those expenses too. Like if you live in Utah Thanksgiving Point, you could get a membership there, and some other museums as well. And so you can do like the basic family plan for most of them and get it covered under those funds. And then the elective one, my kids, you can pick a variety. They have a variety of things. And so last year we just did like Japanese and Spanish classes and had those reimbursed. We're still doing Japanese for one of my kids this year. And then one of my kids, I put PE, because then if you need like a new basketball or even rollerblades or some like stepping stones that I've unboxed here on my channel, you can use all those funds for that. So anything that's kind of like workout related and things like that, that you can use all, like I've used a big chunk of his funds just for like gym class type stuff. And so that's what we use for him. And then my other child, I'm trying to remember what I don't even know what I put for her, but I honestly can't remember right now. That's fine. But there's options. You can pick different things. There's art stuff you could do. If you wanted to do more artsy type stuff. There's, again, like I said, language classes you could have reimbursed. Another option, so if you don't put it as custom billed, you can have it as third party reimbursement, which is what my youngest daughter that's in school, my first grader, does, because she does Let's Play Music. So the third party means that it's like a live class taught by somebody else. And so since she goes to this class taught by someone else, they'll be reimbursed. And the funds for this is actually a little bit more. It's $300 instead of just $225. And so her expenses for that is more, like for the year, because it's like $250 or $60 per the semester. And so I use some separate funds. Again, there's a whole nother category I still need to talk about. So those funds can cover some of that, since $300, doesn't cover almost $600 for the whole year. And so for her, that's what I do. I just get a receipt that has all this information that you'll find on the website, everything you need. And I send that in and get reimbursed for her classes. And again, that's a totally like separate thing. If your kids do any sort of live classes, I haven't done a whole lot with this besides her Let's Play Music, but I'm assuming like tumbling, karate, anything like that, any like even some singing classes, I'm sure would be covered if it was like a consistent thing. You can have it all under that kind of stuff. So that's kind of how that whole thing works. And again, there's a lot of different options for what you can pick for the elective classes. And the last category I wanted to mention is the tech funds or technology funds. This isn't to be confused with the exploring technology period. It is kind of confusing that the names are very similar, but they give you $500 per kid for these tech funds. So all these numbers have been per kid that I've been giving you. And so you get $500 per kid, and this is basically anything else is covered under this. Like I said, if you have classes that cost more than the $300, the rest of that money can be reimbursed under that $500. If you need some more art supplies, they won't like pay for storage supplies or backpacks or anything like that. But if you need extra like art stuff for class or extra books that you already used your funds for books or anything like that, it can be covered under here. So also tech, like actual tech stuff. So different laptops can be covered. There are rules. We haven't done anything with like a laptop or a tablet or anything like that, but they can be covered under that money. But there are different rules about if you don't stay with the program for 3 years, you have to pay back certain amounts and things like that for those like higher ticket items. We did do like headphones for my kids had, like my oldest son has some noise canceling headphones. So that type of a thing can be covered under that as well. So the tech funds are kind of just open to whatever you kind of need left over is under there. Or, there's certain things that aren't going to be covered under these core curriculum subjects. It's like, oh no, we don't actually cover that here, but you could put it under your tech funds and have it covered there. And so you can move stuff around a little bit that way. So those are kind of the categories. I hope that all made sense. It's kind of confusing. It's still, like I said, it's only our second year and it's taken a little bit for me to kind of understand it. There is a big Facebook group, and that's helped a lot, especially when I'm like, will this be covered or where should this be covered? When I send in a reimbursement, what should I label it as? And that group helps a lot. You can ask questions or you can search back through previous feeds and find what people have listed, like even just ideas, like what did you get under these funds or what did you get under technology funds and stuff. And people will have running lists of things that they chose to do. You could do some different subscriptions like KiwiCo. That could even go under your like exploring technology funds and things like that. So there's a huge amount of options of what you could do with the funds that you're given. Okay, so a few other topics I wanted to discuss. The first one is accountability, because I know that's important to people, like being a part of these things. Are they gonna consume my life? Are they gonna just not leave me alone? Do I have to do all these things? And I don't feel like it's that way. So like I said, if you are taking a class from them for the exploring technology category, then obviously you'll have that every week, the assignments you're supposed to turn in. But the only other thing that really for accountability wise is just a weekly learning log. And it takes only a few minutes per child. And if they're old enough, they could even fill it out themselves. It basically just asks yes or no. Did you cover math? Did you cover language arts? Did you cover, your social studies or your science, depending on what you do? Did you do your elective, and your exploring technology? Did you spend a little bit of time doing those sometime this week? So mark yes. If you mark no, it'll ask you why, and you'll have to fill that out. And then it just wants like 3 to 5 sentences of how your week was. And a lot of times, so this is where the homeroom teacher comes in. They're the ones checking these logs, and they'll ask questions or provide like, oh, look, it's Lego Day or something, like National Lego Day. That was a recent one. Here's a link, you can check it out, so you could comment on those things. And then I just usually ask my kids what was their favorite thing, or if there's something just personally that stood out to me that they did well that week, I'll comment on that, or maybe they're struggling with something. And so I'll just fill it out. You could also do it in the form of like a picture or a blog, and link that in there or attach the picture, and they could see, oh yeah, this is what they were working on this week. So there's a lot of different options, but it really doesn't take that long. And then you just turn them in every week, except when there's like certain breaks and stuff like that. And usually we've gotten 100% so far on turning them in, and then also having them check them and make sure that we provided all the information we were supposed to. But you have to be, I don't know if it's 80%, you have to be above a certain percentage for them to do your reimbursements for you. So if you are not above that percentage, I don't know how it all works because we haven't had this problem before, but they're not going to reimburse. And I don't know if there's a way to work through that to fix it, but you have to keep above a percent for them to be willing to work with you. So anyway, that's the only accountability. You can do state testing if you want to, but you can opt out of it, and it's so easy to just like go in and click no, and then you don't have to do it. And they don't bother you about it or anything like that. So if you don't want to do the state testing, at least in Utah, like we don't have to do it, and it's very simple not to do it. So those are a few of the things with accountability. Again, there really isn't very much. So I feel like the program as a whole is worth it to me because we're receiving extra funds. And there's some things that I'm like, well, that would be cool to do, but I'm not gonna spend money on it. But if we have some extra funds to do it, we could try it out. And so I'm more willing to try new things or get new books or things because I know we have some extra funding to do it, or even put my kids in a few extra things or whatever because we have a little bit of extra funds to do it. And then the accountability is really low, and they're not like nagging me about it all the time. So I feel like it's a pretty good like win-win type of situation for me. So something else, just if you are curious, if you have a child that has special needs and maybe they've been in public school or been a part of a charter before or had an IEP, they will do IEPs with you. My husband usually is the one that meets with the school and talks to them about it and stuff. Like it's just all through like Zoom calls and stuff. But my oldest, who is high functioning and autistic, had an IEP at the previous charter we belonged to. And so that one transferred to this charter, and he has a meeting once a week where he's doing some like social learning, language type stuff. He has done some speech therapy things a few times when he just struggles with like TH sounds. He met with a school psych last year, usually once a week, and just talked to her about some different things. So there are options there too for special needs, or, and maybe you are homeschooling and you haven't wanted to worry about doing IEPs through your school district. This is another option that there are helps for that type of a thing if you are looking for that. Okay, the last thing I think I'm gonna mention, according to my notes, is just reimbursement. It can be confusing at first. I'm just gonna be honest, like it is a little bit confusing. If you go through the process, follow the instructions, you still might mess it up. But I feel like their customer service, is that what you'd even call it for that? I don't know. But they're really, really great at even like the times when I've been a little frustrated, they're really nice and respond with very clear answers of what I need to do. And that has been really helpful for me. Like, okay, this might not go in this category, but it can go in this. So you send stuff in, you know, it has all the receipts, it has the dates, all the things, it tells you what needs to be listed. You send that in, and then under certain categories, right? If it's under all those like custom build with your math, language arts, all that kind of stuff, you'll mark that. If it's under your exploring technology class, you'll mark that. If it's just under that big chunk of technology funds, right? You'll put it under that. And you send in like 2 reimbursements a year for the technology funds. I think it's still 2. And then it's like 4 for the big custom build ones. And so you can't just send in reimbursements every time you get something, right? Oh, I spent this, like you're just sending in like 50 billion a year. And so there is, you know, a method to the madness. And so I just create folders and put stuff in it like, okay, this is reimbursement 1, reimbursement 2. So I can keep track of where we are in the school year. And you can also just look at your website, like your parent center on their website, and figure that out. And so then you send this stuff in. If it has everything it's supposed to, they'll approve it. And this year, all the funds have been in my bank account within a few days of them approving it. So sometimes it takes a week or 2 for it to be approved, depending on how many people they have. Like at the beginning of the school year, it's longer because everyone's sending all their stuff in to get reimbursed. But it can be really quick. And this year, the company they're working with or whatever to direct deposit stuff is way fast. So it's really nice. It's like a few days. And so that happens. If it doesn't get approved, they'll tell you why. Like maybe your total doesn't match your receipts, or this thing cannot go in this fund, it needs to go in this fund. And so then you'll have to move it and resubmit it. So there's a lot of different options that way, and then you send it back in. So I know it can be frustrating. I haven't had any crazy like issues with it. I know people have mixed feelings about it, but I feel like that's the case with everything in life. People have mixed feelings. So I feel like overall, like it's pretty painless. It just takes a little bit of time to get everything organized and sent into them. All right, so that was kind of my overview / explanation of My Tech High. Hopefully it was as clear as mud. Hopefully it was clearer than mud. But if you have extra questions, like I said, put them down in the comments. If there's way too many and it seems like I just need to make another video, I'll do that and try to answer everything as best as I can. But overall, it's been a pretty good experience for our family, and we've enjoyed doing it. Nothing crazy has happened, or it hasn't felt like I've been constricted in what I've been able to do as a homeschool mom, you know, and the reason I wanted to homeschool, so I had that freedom or whatever. I don't feel like I'm tied down to anything or anything like that. So it's been pretty still wide open, but with some extra funds to do some other things. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Remember to give it a thumbs up. And again, if you have questions, put them down below, and I will see you next time.